This is being moderated by Colonel Sushil Pradhan, COO, MitKat Advisory, and we have on the panel today Mr. Raghavendra KP, Senior Manager, Business Resiliency and Physical Security, APJ, including India, VMware. Mr. Ajay Gupta is Partner Tech Practice, KPMG. Akshay Markandey is the founder of VersionX Innovation. Mr. Steve Katanas, Director, SAPAC, HID Global. He shall be joining shortly. Mr. Anand Thirunagari, Country Manager, India, Genetec Incorporated. Mr. Khalid Wani, Director Sales, India Western Digital, and Mr. A.L. Narasimhan, Vice President, Strategic Business Alliances, Prama, Hikvision, India Private Limited. So he's joining in a while. So over to you, Sushil, sir.
Thank you so much, and great to have such a wonderful panel. And I don't know, those of you who did attend the previous panel would have heard a wonderful exposition by various experts in the field of security, which was so ably modulated and moderated by Colonel Sam. And it's indeed an honor and a privilege for me to moderate a discussion with such eminent and experienced industry professionals, some of you who have been in the field for decades. And before we move on to the discussion, just please allow me to introduce myself. I am the CEO of MitKat Advisory Services. Have been with the company since the last 8 years plus. Before that, I spent 22 years in the Indian Army. I've been speaking at and moderating panel discussions across various security and technology forums in India, UK, US, Singapore, Dubai, China for the last 8 years or so. And it would really be my privilege to be in your company for just short of an hour today to cover the really interesting topic of emerging technology in security systems, which is such an open-ended topic. However, we shall also try and make the issue more relevant by taking off on some of the things which are more related to the biggest concern today that we all face, that is the pandemic, and how the security function can be a business enabler, and in turn, how technology can be enabler for the security functions. So today we hear about so many uses of technology in the field of security, whether it's the artificial intelligence, which is overlaid into surveillance devices. Today I was reading how a robot is being used in a hospital in Noida to patrol the COVID wards so that security guards are not endangered from the safety perspective. You have automatic license plate recognition systems. You have wearable devices with RFID. You have proximity detectors, which help you to maintain social distancing norms at the workplace. You have so many new devices which are now focusing on the low touch environment, which help to achieve a contactless work environment. You have GPS enabled tracking, which is helping the security of production facilities and the security of supply chains. You have intelligence risk monitoring systems which provide you such wonderful dashboards to analyze the security aspects of all your day-to-day business activities. You just heard in the last discussion a little bit about drone technology, how it's enabling security. So we have a wonderful panel, and if I look at it broadly, we have a panel which has a hardcore technology developer in the form of
Hello.
So is a OEM. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. And we also have a distinguished panel of people representing security systems. We have Anand, who's from Genetec. We have Narasimhan from Hikvision. We have Steve, who's joining us from HID. We have Mr. Khalid Wani, who's representing Western Digital. And we also have Ajay Gupta from KPMG, who provides the consultancy angle, who helps to advise their clients as to what systems they must go in for, and helps also with the system integration of such systems. And then not the most important in the whole food chain is the user, the actual security leaders and the security managers being represented here by Raghavendra. So I think it's a very nice mix and match of various categories of people who sort of design, envision, create, manufacture, market, and ultimately use all these security technologies. So having taken up almost 2 minutes of the time of the discussion in this introduction, let me quickly move on to what the panelists have to say. And, I would like to start by getting us all on the same platform by understanding a little bit about the technology, which all of us are aware of, but being articulated in a very crisp and a simple manner by Akshay on, how are all these various technologies which we just hear about, artificial intelligence, IoT, analytics, network storage, how are they all changing the structure of security systems, but also start by telling us what these are. Over to you, Akshay.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Akshay. I will just give you some overview about these terms. I try and keep it as laymanish as possible so that you don't need to get into the jargons of it, but you should be able to understand these very well. As to start with AI and ML, I would like to clarify that there's a quite a lot of difference between AI and ML. In the terms of talking, when we are generally talking, we use AI as a marketing term, but most of the systems that you see are ML based. So give you an idea, on a very high level, if we break them, take an AI as a larger concept to create intelligent machines that can mimic human behavior and human-like thinking capabilities. ML, on the other hand, is a subset of an AI and can be considered as an advanced software, which basically learns from data and it does not require any explicit programming. So they kind of evolve by itself. So for example, so I will get into more of a machine learning, which breaks further into three aspects, which is called a supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement based learning. A supervised learning, basically, you give example inputs and their desired outputs. The objective is to learn through general rules that maps inputs to outputs. So typical example of this would be, let's say, facial recognition systems or an object detection systems is a part of a supervised learning kind of a machine learning models. Unsupervised learning, where no labels are given basically to the learning algorithms, leave it on its own. It finds its own structure, its own inputs, and unsupervised learning can be a goal in itself, typically used towards discoveries, medicines, and those kind of aspects, not so largely used inside security premises. Reinforcement based learning, this is where software interacts with the dynamic environment in which it must perform a certain goals. The idea of this is where the problem statement is not from the object itself, but also the environment around it. So this is something which is used in self-driving cars, this kind of enforcement learning, where when you're driving, you as a driver, not only your driving skill matters, but others' driving skill or the environment around you matters as well. Typically, ML is built over a deep learning algorithms. Now, these deep learning algorithms uses neural networks. I think you guys must be hearing these terms in and out, but yeah, there is a subtle difference in all of them. These algorithm basically passes the input through various layers. Each layer is designed to add to the functioning of these desired outputs, and they give you an output which is tuned to get you the desired results. So some of the layers or some of these neural networks that you keep hearing could be, let's say, convolutional neural network, which is called CNN. This is what primarily used in facial recognition. You have recurrent neural networks, you have long-term short-term memories, you have various, about 15 or 18 of them. So those are the kind of neural networks that are used in deep learning to give you the desired outputs. A typical example for an AI or a machine learning, just to give you, is basically a voice-based assistants which understand the natural languages are part of the AI. Whereas facial recognition, a video surveillance, a people counting, those kind of things falls more under the ML category of products. So that's from the AI ML perspective, and to just keep a demarcation between them. Second, a term which is Internet of Things. Now, what is Internet of Things? So we all have been seeing PCs and computers from ancient times, but they do not account for Internet of Things, though they are connected to Internet. So basically, it's a term coined for small, rather unconventional devices or objects that can remain connected and receive data without any human-machine interaction. Those are, and they typically also have a unique identification. So these are the ones which are generally, let's say, sensor-based stuff, smart parking systems, small LEDs, anything like that, which exchanges data without any human inputs, generally smaller in nature, falls under the Internet of Things paradigm. We keep hearing, so though the cloud computing was not part of the topic, but I wanted to cover this because it's important to understand. Generally, a cloud computing interface is important from the current perspective because the Internet of Things requires a cloud infrastructure, primarily because the inputs is so large and so millions of data points which are coming in needs to be handled at scale. So just because something is running on internet or on a cloud does not make it a cloud system. Typically, a cloud system example would be a system that scales in terms of its memory, processing powers, and will shut down and invoke itself, falls under a cloud computing platform. In general, a virtual machine running on a cloud does not mean it's a cloud computing platform. So just to keep a little bit of difference, each of these topics are very lengthy in perspective, so I'm just trying to keep as simple as possible. So in a cloud computing, you can assume it like this, one system, which is, let's say, used by 10 companies, which are sharing the resources like electricity, technology, security overheads, and all that is part of a cloud computing platform. A VM on it itself belongs to one person or one tenant, which internally is responsible for it. Analytics is basically analysis of data or statistics to decode patterns. The larger the data, generally the better the analytics is, that is the perception. Typically, analytics again falls under mainly three categories. One is descriptive analytics, which is what most of us use. So this basically says what has happened in a business. So generally that was descriptive analytics about. Then another is predictive analytics, which specifies what could happen. So it is predicting. So what could happen is under predictive analytics. And then the third one, which is perceptive analytics, which is what should happen. So these three kind of analytics models is generally which is used. They of course analytics plays a very key part in decision making, security, and risk mitigations as well. Another term that we have come across, what I'm covering today, is a network storage perspective. It's basically storing data in a central location which multiple clients can access. So it's not like where we have a PC where we store some data and we share other resources or other systems can access. That is not what network storage means. This also have a hot swappable hard drive. So generally you can put in a hard drive, you can take on a hard drive, they can grow as on its own and can scale on its own. Generally comes with their own operating system and file management system. A typical example for a network storage could be a NAS, which is a network attached storage, and a SAN, which is a storage area network, of course, large points in itself. So I'm not going to dwell too much into it. Just to give a quick overview, a NAS basically recognizes data by file names, transfer file data, or more of a file oriented. A SAN is more to do with the disk block or a disk transfer block kind of a system. So just to give an overview of these technologies. Now, how do their technologies comes together and play part in the security system?
Right.
Now, there are various components in security system. Let's say we talk about alarms, motion sensors, electronic doors, electromagnetic locks and sensors, people counting, drones. We talked about image restoration. We talk about robotics and all that stuff. So these are all technologies which are using these technologies to give you the kind of output that you desire. And just to sum up quickly on this whole part, the future of the security system is basically day by day getting more autonomous and self-driven. It needs to be more accurate. In order to do that, basically it needs vast amount of information on a real-time basis. It needs a lot of computing power, especially on the edge. So if the network is not available, it still performs. And of course has to have an embedded intelligence, which is again, all these aspects are fueled by the newer version and the advancement in the field of AI, ML, IoT, analytics, cloud storage techniques that we have spoken about. So this is a quick summary about how these technologies can help you in the technology space of security.
Thank you, Akshay. Thanks for setting the very nice technology base. So when we go forward and talk about more systems, people relate to what you said and say, oh, this is what predictive intelligence is. This is what, descriptive analytics is, and things like that. So moving on to some of the applications now of these various technologies that you just highlighted, and especially which are being preempted now by the pandemic. So I'd like Mr. Hariharan to first take on, when we say technology in the low touch environment, how is security technology suddenly learn to adapt itself now to the new low touch environment? What is it looking towards achieving, and how will it become a security systems enabler? Mr. Hariharan?
I think
Are you there?
if that question was for Mr. Narasimhan. Mr. Narasimhan.
Yeah, okay, sorry, Mr. Narasimhan. I apologize. Mr. Narasimhan. Sorry. I think you are on mute, Mr. Narasimhan.
Hear me now?
Yes, and again, apologies for pronouncing your name wrong the second time or the third time round. Please go ahead. Sorry.
Doesn't matter. All South Indians carry God's name. So I am also one of them.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. That's a beautiful way of putting it.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this present situation that you talked about with COVID around and infections, being carried without being wanted by people, the exact issue here is that anybody would like to use products which they are, careful in and do not touch any particular object or a gadget to be able to do it. In this area, Prama Hikvision has introduced some excellent products, especially what Mr. Akshay was mentioning about the face recognition access control systems. Now, this access control system, it has proof. Prama was already known for providing the best solution for facial recognition. The success rate or the recognition rate has been almost more than 99% in most of the cases. Now, combined with that, the company has introduced the temperature screening facility also. So what happens is that without even touching or using any handheld gun or thermal machines, the facial recognition machine is able to detect the temperature of the person. The best thing being that it also indicates that whether a person is wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. So it sort of alerts the person and tells them that like you need to know you need to wear a mask. And within that limited space which is available, the forehead or even the neck portion, if at all it is visible, the machine is able to detect the temperature of the person. So it indicates the temperature. It also indicates the facial recognition. The face recognition with the mask it is able to recognize him in almost 99% of the cases. And moreover, even if a person is not maintaining some distance, the social distance which is expected out of when a person standing in a queue is concerned, it also gives an alert and says that you're not maintaining the social distance, so please stay 3 feet away or 4 feet away, whatever it is. So some of the this kind of products which are some unique thing that that is the measurement distance, it can detect from zero point 0.3 meters to almost 2 meters. So this is the accuracy, and the accuracy what I mentioned to you about 99% accuracy, it is still able to achieve. The measurement scale, it has got with the face mask on, and also using the same terminal for thermal screening, the body's temperature screening. It has got a large area which is available in this particular terminal, where it is able to detect both the face as well as the and screen the temperature. And the adaptability in this case is, in most of the systems which are available across the world, there are two different cameras in some cases used, for one for measuring the temperature, other for recognizing the face. The unique thing about the product which is being provided by this company is that it has dual purpose cameras which can measure the temperature as well as do the facial recognition. And the time that it takes is less than 1 second. See, we have provided these systems to very major factories across this country. The issue that happens is when there is a change in shift and there are thousands of employees. For example, if I tell you about a steel plant, there are the shift changes which happen 6 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and again 10 in the night. So during this time, there are thousands of workers who come on, you queue up, just come 10-15 minutes before this, the actual entry time, and they just queue up, and it is expected that the system should be able to do all this processing fast, so that everybody is able to get in. Otherwise, twice or thrice they come late in a month, their salary gets detected. So this particular system is so fast that it takes just less than a second to recognize the person as well as record his temperature. And the best thing is it matches. So it is in the other crude systems that we call it, is that the two cameras which are used for doing this, one may be recording the face, showing a face and doing a temperature reading of a different person on the, there are possibilities of these kind of non-authentication things which are happening. But this particular thing what we are providing eliminates the complete, and it gives a very authentic recording of the attendance. There is low measurement error. We have done several tests, and we have installed these, and we have found that there is very, very low. One in several thousands, it could happen. And also, and the labor cost in most of the systems is to maintain them, to run the system is so high. Over here, you just install the system and it keeps working, and it records it, and you're able to keep 30 days records or whatever. I mean, the storage systems, these are available in the kind of requirement that you have. It can sort of keep entire records of this, and the accuracy is very high. As I told you, it's 99%. So these are the ones. These are the innovations which have been brought in by the organization at a time when the infections are high. And actually, the slogan of the organization has been Surakshit Bharat. So we are carrying this forward as a Surakshit Bharat slogan for the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's really admirable, and appreciate that. Mr. Khalid, Wani, taking off from what Mr. Narasimhan just said about the adoption of various technologies for the surveillance cameras. Is firstly, so I'll ask you two things. One is that, is this here to stay? Is it going to be a long-term trend, or do you see that it's only reactive to the current situation? And secondly, if you could, so what Mr. Narasimhan said was a specific product developed for these kind of issues. So is there any way where we can retrofit the existing surveillance systems using software at the back end, so that you don't, a user does not have to invest in new hardware or new technology to achieve maybe not the same thing, but at least as close as possible to this? Over to you, sir.
Just realized that I was on mute. Interesting 2 points that you raised, right? And but before I even go there, right, I want to commend Akshay from VersionX to basically set the stage up, right? And he set it up so well, trying to basically explain the whole AI ML and what is happening in that space. If you look at before I even go and answer this, right, one of the points that both the gentlemen talked about is how effectively, in order for all of this to function properly, the core backbone around this is data, right? Everything that is done right now is around data. And your question regarding, is it here to stay? It is definitely here to stay. In fact, it's here to stay and continue to enhance and continue to basically become a part of the entire infrastructure across various verticals that Akshay talked about, whether it's what's happening from the drone technology perspective, what's happening with machine learning, AI, and so on and so forth, right? When you look at particularly surveillance as a segment, you realize that the adoption of the high resolution and AI-enabled cameras is seeing a massive upward trend, right? And everything is being related to significantly reducing the dependence on human intervention, right? And when you are basically getting into that kind of a thought process or a mindset, it's important that you have three things that we have three things that are being taken care of. One is make sure that all these devices that are being utilized to create that environment have the ability to capture high level of data, right? Have the ability to have a higher performance on that data that is being captured, which obviously means that there has to be a much higher level of endurance that is required from devices perspective. Just to give you an example, right? When you look at look at Western Digital from Western Digital's perspective, our objective has always been to ensure that all these devices, whether at the edge or the core level, have the storage capabilities which allow these devices to do these three things. In order to capture the right data, it needs to have the endurance and it needs to have that performance, and of course the capacity. Because eventually what will happen is, in order for all these products or all these segments to effectively deliver what they need to deliver, the analytics around that data have to be built, right? Only when these analyticals are built, and yes, I mean, the customers who do have an existing infrastructure, they can always utilize the software platforms which are available to further enhance the capabilities which they have in-house, right? But for us to make sure that as an organization, we build around these technologies and make sure that we provide the product sets which are needed. If you look at our purple line of hard drives, our purple line of hard drives can take up to 16 artificial intelligence channels and simultaneously have almost 32 streams of AI complementing the devices. So yes, in my opinion, it's here to stay. It's here to stay for a very, very long time. Industries will continue to adopt it. Not just from security and surveillance perspective, but also from making sure that the data captured is utilized for the larger good. I mean, look at it this way, right? When you look at it from global perspective, only 1.5% of data is analyzed for the bigger problems like climate change, water scarcity, and so on and so forth. You look at the current pandemic, if you relate it to the current pandemic situation, countries who have effectively utilized the data they have captured are actually performing a lot more better than the countries who haven't been doing that, whether it's from social distancing perspective or any of those areas. So I think it's here to stay for a very, very long term, Mr. Pradhan. And as a brand, it's important for us to make sure that we continue to support with the products which are needed to store that data.
Thanks, Khalid. Thank you for putting it across very nicely. And, I'll come back to you later with a question which I already posed right away, which came to my mind. So, Akshay also talked about network storage. So for security systems, what do you think is a better idea? Is it on-site storage or is it off-site storage, or how do you see it as a combination? But we'll come back to this later, because I want to talk beyond the video surveillance and surveillance devices that we've talked about. And, there are so many interconnected personal and organizational devices out there in the security environment, which are all interconnected and help to build up a comprehensive security picture. So just wanted Anand to throw a bit of light on that. Anand, if you could just tell us about how network devices can create a better security picture, and is there any role for, or rather, what is the role of analytics and artificial intelligence there?
Thanks, Sushil ji. I think especially to Akshay and Rupal in the previous session, I was fortunate enough to be a part of it. Vivek, they all spoke about certain of their challenges. I tend to agree with Akshay on one very important aspect of it, which Genetec has been taking a very consistent position, is AI is a very good marketing jargon used in our industry all across, left, right, and center. Let it be from temperature screening all the way to detecting buffaloes to cattle to spitting. I think we definitely need to change this as sort of behavior within the industry. AI is a technology, and it's not today. It's been there more than 7 decades, to the best of my knowledge. There has been an ongoing research around that, but what we need to look at very seriously is the ML and DL part of it, which is what is actually playing certain role. Not necessarily it is the holy grain for the entire technology, but it is bringing in certain pockets of physical security industry. It is actually bringing in value. For example, let's take about the ANPR technology, which you spoke about, which is way beyond the video surveillance, right? Video surveillance itself in physical security is one piece of the puzzle. But today in the modern infrastructure, either in a building or city or across the continents, we see minimum of 14 to 15 technologies comprehensively coming together to build a comprehensive picture or a bigger picture. Now, when we talk about ALPR, when you apply ML or these DL models, which is what we do within our organization, traditionally, let's assume you're getting an accuracy of 93%. When I talk about accuracy, it's not that you detect the plates on its own. That's the kind of terminology which people talk. It's not. What happens is that a O being detected as 0 properly, or a 3 being detected as M properly, those are all the kind of corrections this technology can bring into the picture, which ultimately enhances the overall performance and accuracy. Similarly, if you take the example of, let's take an example of the industry of people counting, which is very relevant to the pandemic for occupancy perspective, right? Today, traditionally, if you're doing with the traditional analytics with the MLDL models, what it does is basically sense the light, the patterns, and then make sure that what is the relevant data it captures properly, and then presents a better accuracy. So we need to be, as an industry, be very, very responsible talking about AI and what kind of challenges it solves, because for an end user, it's always a jargon, and he thinks that it solves every problem. Like I said, right from cattle detection to spitting challenges being detected, which it doesn't. It just causes very unrealistic expectations, and it pretty much disappoints the industry to a large extent. What we are saying is it's a technology which is evolving. It can bring value into certain pockets. Let's be cautious about those pockets and look at that seriously. Having said that, on the AI and ML side of it, you touched upon the bigger picture of it. I still believe, like I said, there are 14, 15 technologies out there in the physical security space itself. The biggest challenge, what we need to deal with it, or the customers need to deal with it, is first important one is breaking those silos. You have 14, 15 systems, you deploy it in silos, you cannot derive any operational efficiency out of it. And like Khalid rightly said, data is new oil. How do you derive data and make sense out of it, right? How do you derive insights out of it? Or if you want to run ML on top of it, you want to run analytics on top of it, when the system itself is siloed and broken, there is no way you will be able to achieve that bigger picture, what you're looking forward for. The second important thing, since the number of systems are increasing and it is collaborating more and more close with the IT systems, IoT is transforming into IoE, except a baby which is coming out in a hospital, rest all comes with an IP address pretty much from day one. And I won't be surprised if a baby also comes with a tag and an RFID tag as it moves on. But that's the reality. Today, Internet of Everything, starting from our pocket to our bedsheet to our beds, everywhere you talk about Internet of Everything, that's where the transformation is happening, right? Which also brings us to a responsible society is how do we deal with this data? Data coming in is one important aspect of it. The second one is deriving insights out of it. And the third one is the protection data, right? How do we manage the privacy of people? How do we handle this data very, very responsibly? Today, there are regulations which are evolving. For example, GDPR is just a starting point of the regulation on the privacy side of it. The data protection bill, which is coming into India, is another starting point of it. So we need to be cautious about the systems, what we are investing. It's like in video surveillance, if you look at it today, when we speak to our customers, what do you want? Is it just a playback and recording? No. We need to mature ourselves as an industry. We need to tell our customers that there is a much more beyond thought process going on from the regulatory framework side of it, the data management side of it, and they need to be prepared for it. Otherwise, today, you look at it, when I presented my slides, it is very unfortunate that only 10% of the organizations globally are ready to handle this new norm. The rest of the organization are pretty much doomed. Either they don't have budgets to do it, or they never plan to handle this kind of a crisis. So cybersecurity, security of security, and data privacy is the second challenge which needs to be given a very, very careful thought about. The third one is, which restricts to derive a bigger picture, is the proprietary systems, right? In a sense, sometimes it is cheap. We just go ahead and invest it, but it does not deliver a long-term value because it is proprietary. Let's take the example of access control. How many years we have been living with an proprietary-based access control systems? Maybe today also many customers still go with that software, hardware coming in from the same vendor and pretty much getting locked down. And one of the things happening, the repercussions is you don't know how to handle this kind of crisis situation. For example, you want to do a touchless and frictionless access control system. How do you do it? Your systems are extremely proprietary. There's no way you will be able to derive value out of it. So getting stuck into the proprietary system, data management and privacy and cybersecurity, and then breaking the silos. These are all the three important sort of bigger picture which we need to look at it as challenges. Once we solve these fundamental stuff, I think then the other value proposition which an organization should look at it will derive from out of it on its own. So that's my perspective, Sushil. And we have been doing this for the last 10, 12 years, breaking the silos through our unified platform, security center, privacy and data protection and cybersecurity. Some of the stands we have taken in the last 4 years against certain suppliers. itself speaks for the commitment we have done for the data privacy and cybersecurity side of it. On our open platform access control system actually breaks that legacy of proprietary natured hardware and software being from the same vendor. So those are all a little bit of contributions which we have been constantly doing for this industry, and we will continue to do that. Back to you, Sushilji.
Thank you so much, thank you, Anand. I'll come back to you. And so far we've heard about surveillance devices, we've heard a bit about technology, connected devices. Ajay, in your experience of consulting in this field, you must have seen people using, so far surveillance devices have been used mostly as a deterrent or for investigation of incidents. And now we are talking of predictive analytics. And we also hear of how Internet of Things is now becoming Internet of Everything. So how do you think the security industry or the security environment can actually leverage both these technologies to come up with predictive models of security, where we can, I don't say create a crystal ball, but at least come up with something which will help security leaders to make their job easier by being able to preempt certain things that may be able to come up. So do you have any thoughts or use cases or some such idea on this? Because you must be interacting with so many security leaders in your various consultancy appointments.
Yeah. Thanks, Sushil. I think Anand, Khalid, and everybody, Akshay, they have set the context. And what I will touch upon in relation to the application of AI plus IoT combined in the video surveillance will sort of intersect with what these gentlemen have already said. So, but coming back to the question, so I mean, no doubt AI has completely transformed how we use technologies in industry sectors for our day-to-day life. Use of AI in video surveillance, especially, has been a game changer, and it has helped us to create much more stronger and secure world, I would say. Let's take a step back. So before IoT and AI, as you rightly mentioned, the video-based surveillance meant only monitoring the CCTV cameras, and often we came to know about the incidents after they happened. So there were many challenges, like a solution did not have capability to predict or prevent the incidents from happening. We humans have our own limitations. So the person monitoring video feeds in places like, say, command and control center, they can at a time look at only few cameras, maybe 6, 7, or dozen at the max. Third issue was humans have a very short attention span for a repetitive or mundane type of jobs, and the research suggests that this can be as short as 15-20 minutes. That's it. So it was easy for a person at command and control center to miss an event which actually needed his attention. Fourth issue is related to the video search. Without AI and analytics, searching hundreds of hours of video is an uphill task. Operators have to scan thousands of hours of video from and going through each and every camera to find the critical event which they need to investigate. Now imagine searching something on the internet without taking help of Google. So in today's scenario, it would be nightmare and unthinkable. So AI enabled IoT solutions have answers to many of these challenges, and they are able to help or complement humans to more efficiently, accurately, and effectively than with the help of all these technologies. When operator feeds in physical attributes of a person involved in an event, this technology helps them to search by simply entering some parameters like what is the gender, what is the hair color, or color of the clothes. So this is very helpful in cases like hit and run scenario, or in missing persons or suspicious persons. In a command and control centers, AI-enabled video surveillance can detect an alert on any suspicious activities or potential threat, even if there are thousands of cameras. You can draw a virtual boundary and let these intelligent camera to keep an eye on perimeter intrusions or if someone is loitering around. So these type of use cases. The solution can very well predict and alert enforcement agencies if there are group of people coming together with an intention of violence or there is a possibility of say riot or some violence happening. AI with IoT can detect if there is a litter lying on the road, somebody is trying to write a graffiti, on the wall or public places, say government office or school, or someone is trying to, deface a statue or any monuments. So all of these are possible with the help of, AI-based surveillance system. Now, coming to if there are existing systems already implemented, the answer is yes. In my previous organizations, I led implementation of, more than a dozen smart cities like Kanpur Smart City, Pimpri, Gandhinagar. So in smart cities programs, they have made it mandatory to use the AI-based use cases like the litter detections, graffiti detections, uh, crowd control, vehicle classification, etc. Pretty much what I just now discussed for these solutions to be implemented in the cities.
Right.
Now, during the lockdown, these solutions played an important role ensuring that people don't violate lockdown with the help of features like perimeter intrusion, detections, and crowd management. So, a lot of these use cases are already put in use. To conclude, I would say AI has shifted the overall landscape of video-based security and surveillance and significantly altered the way police, enforcement, or any security personnel work with their security systems. Wherever we have a human, wherever we feel that human are constrained, the fine-tuned capabilities of AI and IoT comes to complement us. Thanks.
Right. Thank you. That was very nicely put and good use cases, I think, in the terms of public domain where we are talking of government or police or law enforcement. And now, of course, coming to the corporate security sector where, we have a user and a proponent of all these devices which are enabled by Internet of Things and by artificial intelligence. So, Raghavendra, over to you, and could you just run us through what was your concept, what was your experience of these various technologies coming to help you, especially during the implementation of pandemic oriented security measures, but Mr. Khalid, Wani also said that these things are here to stay. So how do you see all these technologies being here to stay as a security enabler for corporate security?
Yeah, thanks, Sushil, for the question. And I think the foundation has been set very well by all the speakers before me. But as a user, as you rightly put it, so for us, this pandemic has brought out a whole new set of risks to deal with. So many of the acceptable norms during the pre-COVID times are a strict no-no today, such as 100% of the staff being in the office, moving around in groups, not wearing any facial coverings, touching things, etc. So there are these and some other risks such as tailgating, which is nothing to do, has got something to do with the pandemic, but even before pandemic, tailgating was a big risk for us. And in the pandemic, it has become all the more bigger risk from the medical angles as well, because of the additional risk exposure that it has brought in. So all of these have to be dealt with. And governments at a national level, state level, and even local bodies globally are imposing various requirement restrictions to reopen the offices. And in some of the countries that we operate, even if there is a small non-compliance, the strictures or the fines could be so heavy that many of the offices which we want to reopen are thinking twice before whether we can implement all these things. And there was one instance where in 2 different wards of a particular city, there were different guidelines and we had one building in each of these. So we had to be looking at different aspects in each of these things. And these guidelines tend to keep changing from time to time. And organizations need to be really fast to adapt to the new requirements to keep the offices open. So we did initially start off with a lot of manual efforts to monitor the requirements of the social distancing, violation of the pandemic related best practices and behavior. But it was very, very labor intensive. And again, to what Ajay said, it's very difficult to repetitively do the same thing and to be accurate all the time. and with a high possibility of causing friction between security staff and employees, trying to say, why are you trying to find out faults in some of these things? Like, because wearing a mask is acceptable in some societies, acceptable in not, and it's a very new thing. People need not wear at their desk, but they need to wear in a common area. So these are situations where there was unnecessary or possibilities of a friction between the security team and the employees. And this is not a scalable option globally. Like, as we have more and more offices opening globally, to implement this on a manual effort is a very, very impossible, almost an impossible thing. And hence the focus was on technology to find solutions to these applications. So as an organization, we came up with a setting up of a reopening of office technology task force, whose main job was to explore various technologies for coordinating the efforts across the organization globally and decide if, how, and what technology can be used to enable to reopen the office. Some of the use cases that we were trying to look out as part of proof of concepts was social distancing, wearing of PPE, anti-tailgating, occupancy and density management, contact tracing, thermal imaging, health attestation, access management, and reduction of surface touching. And some of the challenges or the things that we had to consider before adapting any technology was the value that it would bring to us, the impact it would have on our people and our operations. And like some of the other speakers pointed out, the privacy risk concerns, especially with technology and a lot of the surveillance. There is a huge amount of privacy risk, and for somebody operating in the multiple geographies, where some of the, especially in the Europe, with the GDPR becoming such a big thing to be kept in mind whenever you are implementing any of your security solutions. So this privacy risk concerns was something of a high priority for us to be dealt with. And also, what were the efforts to implement it and the cost to implement it? So all of these were considered. And we are in various stages of proof of concept for all the 9 areas that I just spoke about. And I'm happy to share that for the social distancing, personal protective equipment, anti-tailgating, and occupancy, we have been able to complete with very positive results. So for this, we used AI in our video systems. And the results are also very promising. There was about 85% identification rate and less than 10% false positives after the conclusion of the first round of POC. So now we are now trying to see how we can scale it or how we can use it globally. And as I said, like in some of the countries, like labor intensive or human intensive in India, probably the cost of the technology is so prohibitive, it would probably be easier to use 10 guards versus probably using 10 cameras. Versus in some other countries where the human capital is very costly, technology can be a great support. So I think it's about finding the right balance and using, and of course, definitely it will help and reduce the turnaround times, and the accuracy of the actions is definitely there with the technology. So that's my experience, Sushil.
Really fascinating, because the way you have tackled it from the problem solving perspective and gone about it, and also really interesting to hear, because of your global coverage, how you had to balance out the various requirements of technology implementation in different countries, different cities, coping with different kinds of regulations. So I hope all the guys, all the people, eminent panelists who are into manufacturing and selling and marketing their equipment are listening to the user requirements, because you guys really need to be able to fulfill what their specific requirements are. So I think it has been a really nice session so far, and I am very sorry that one of my panelists could not join, unfortunately, or doesn't seem to have been able to join for some reason. But nevertheless, we are still towards the end of the session. But I would like to, like all of you, to conclude your statements before we move on to the Q&A by one quick minute of whatever you feel is the appropriate takeaway from this session. And Khalid, you have to answer that with the question which I posed to you. For the rest of you, I'll leave it to you. So Akshay, we'll go with you since you set the stage. We would like to see what emerged from this discussion that you can take away from here.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, Akshay.
All right. I think from my perspective, I think the future is all autonomous and machine learning and more technology based. I think that's the objective of it. I think the systems inherently are getting smarter and would get smarter with time. It would help us being more reactive and lesser reactive and more proactive. So we would be able to prevent crime before they happen rather than, do a postmortem after they have happened. I feel that is where the industry is headed. Scale of economy will bring the prices down, so should get more economical and affordable as things move forward. And I think that's what I take from it.
Right. Thanks, Akshay. Very nicely summed up, and thanks for that. And Mr. Narasimhan, if you could, sum up what you
Sure. So as he rightly said,
want us to take away from this session.
Great. I mean, this is what we've been also working towards, and some of the surveillance technology today, from a post-incident, as you would have realized, has now come into an area where we are able to prevent crime. Not only crime, but it has started assisting in terms of increasing the productivity in some of the manufacturing processes. For example, I used to always cite this about a steel plant where certain operations where somebody has to go and work near a continuous casting plant or near a blast furnace where the temperature is very high. And there used to be human beings who used to be doing this work and on a very risky atmosphere and condition. Now the camera is able to take care of these kind of crucial, critical working area, and the cameras have been able to sort of give a solution which enables even in a textile mill. This is being vastly used. So the surveillance technology has come to stay here, and so with the artificial intelligence and the rest of the technology coming up, we see great future in terms of not only the productivity but safety and security for people as well.
Great. Thank you so much. That was very nicely put, and we hope things work out the way you outlined it. And back to you, Khalid, for your closing statements and what you would like us to take away on the perspective of storage.
Yeah, before I go to the closing statement, I want to reflect on the question that you briefly asked me. How does the entire storage ecosystem look around? I mean, is it more offline, more online? I mean, I think going forward, and also as Akshay again pointed out, right, the future is going to be about real time. Right? So you will consistently see a deployment of a lot of online storage, a lot of storage which has to be readily accessible. Right? Examples of your command and control center, which are able to predict and identify a crime as soon as it happens and take the corrective actions. And when you look at the offline structure as well, you have a lot of areas that will also operate in an offline mode. Hence, it's been important for us to make sure that as a storage technology company, we continue to develop products which are able to do that. Some of our products have 24/7 health monitoring built into devices, which are able to kind of predict a failure of a particular device and prompt the users or prompt the centers about it. So that's to answer your question on the offline and online structure going forward.
Thanks.
A quick takeaway from my side. I think this has been a very, very interesting session, right? And I see a lot of work that is being done across panelists, and they've talked about it, right? I think as Western Digital, what is important for us is to make sure that we are creating an environment wherein we are able to provide the devices or the products which allow this data to be stored, consumed, and analyzed. Right? I believe that for us it's a larger responsibility to ensure that the data which is captured continues to be analyzed for the larger good. There's a lot that we can do with this data, and in combination with what is happening from the security perspective, the surveillance perspective, a lot of it would emerge out, and I'm sure we'll be able to, as all of us together, will be able to address all the critical challenges that are in front of us, whether it's from global warming, health perspective, and so on and so forth, and make the world a better place to live. I don't want to sound and bring in a cliche on this one, but I think we all are putting a lot of work to make the world a better place. Again, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. So that was actually, taking that analogy to data is oil, then Western Digital guys are the people who are helping to transport and store that oil. So
Yeah, we got the
all the
barrels.
best.
We've got the barrels for you.
All the best to you guys. And Anand, what do you have to say? What was your takeaway about more about interconnected devices and analytics from your perspective?
No, I think it was very interesting to listen to Mr. Ajay and from a government perspective, how things are revolving and how it is bringing value. And obviously, Raghavendra shared his challenges, a set of challenges and commendable work over there on deriving some of those objectives being met. That shows technology does work when it is needed, and it is able to derive certain things and makes life easy for the CSO like Raghavendra over here. So my perspective, I think I still go back to the three important stuff as a key takeaway. Break the silos. Look at an unified approach towards your security, operations, and intelligence, which means your security systems, your operation, workflow, enforcement, and deriving data insights have to go hand in hand. And if you do this through siloed applications, you cannot achieve, and it still breaks down at a certain point in time. That's the most important takeaway. The second one is on the security of security, especially when the Internet of Everything is there, the cyber security aspects of it have to be taken up very seriously. And the technology intervention is not the only one which can help over there. It's a discipline, it's a process, it's a practice, and it is very well matured in the IT world side of it. But in the physical industry side of it, what we see is it is still evolving, and it is our responsibility to make sure it matures as a technology. For example, as simple as you go and check today, a statistic says that 90% of the physical security cameras lying in the streets are pretty much maintaining default passwords. And 56% of the cybersecurity attacks are primarily because of that point. And how are you, as simple as those, and it can go as big as, for example, Genetec within the platform, we have a tool called a cybersecurity scorecard. How does a customer easily be able to see how is my cybersecurity readiness? When you connect all the systems, I want to know how much I'm ready with my cybersecurity standards. We have provision for tools like that, and keep these simple things, changing of passwords, firmware being upgraded, believe in vendors who transparently come out and publish their vulnerabilities and give you a perspective around that. So those are all some simple hygiene things which we need to look at it, along with the technology intervention and the discipline. The third one is hashtag is privacy matters. Look at data and privacy as a very, very serious subject for a better society and a better things to come forward. That's my takeaway, Sushil. Back to you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Anand. And really, connectivity is important, but then you need a layer of cybersecurity to protect that connectivity. And that's very interesting. And thanks, Ajay, your key takeaway from this session, if you can quickly articulate in a minute or so.
You need to unmute yourself, Ajay. Need to unmute.
Yeah, Ajay, you're on mute.
Sorry. So I was saying that AI not just for the sake of discussion and a terminology which sounds very good, but there has been a lot of push. If you talk about the application of AI and IoT in India, the Smart City Mission Program, the MOUD has mandated all the smart cities to have those 12 use cases, which I discussed in my when I was talking. So I would say it is the applications, the area is actually getting wider and wider. I would just like to reiterate that as security solutions powered by IoT and AI and the data-driven decision-making insights will be making the world, our place, the cities much safer. The AI application goes beyond the sector and the industry, and this is part of our day-to-day life. And wherever we have a human, we feel challenged and we have the limitations, AI and IoT will step in to help us. So that's it.
Thank you. Very nicely put. Raghavendra, your key takeaways from the session.
Yeah, thanks, Sushil. So to me, I think with the threat and the risk landscape changing rapidly and all the time, it would be impossible to scale up with the manual efforts only. And there is bound to be an increasing dependence on technology to deal with the new age threats and risks. All organizations will have to continuously evaluate the newer technology which emerge in the market and manage to have the best mix of manpower and technology to cater to their needs on a global scale. As I was talking earlier, somewhere the manpower may be required and somewhere the technology. And I think to where I would see as it
Right.
going is more and more the technology being the detection piece and security manpower most relegating to the QRT, where they are a quick reaction team to preempt or stop it, versus them being all over the
Right.
place and then depending upon the manual labor. I think that would be the way I think it will be the new age. And also I fully agree with Anand in terms of securing the technology that we are trying to do. I mean, that's the key thing. I mean, otherwise we could be asking for serious trouble if we don't take care of the security of our security. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Thanks.
my...
Very nicely put, Raghavendra. Adish, do we have any questions, or should I sum up in the
I
interest
think
of time?
we have completely run out of time, but I have
Okay.
one question.
Yeah.
So let's quickly take it. I think not more than 1 minute. And it's
Yeah.
a very simple. I mean, given the COVID-19 pandemic, the way it has changed the security perception for a CSO, what is the growth in security technologies that you expect going forward?
I mean, is this to me? Adish,
I've put it to Sushil.
Yeah.
Sir,
Akshay, do you want to take that? Akshay, do you want to take that?
I could take it, but I could not hear it properly, and there was a little bit of lag in the voice. Maybe on my side, I'm not sure.
Basically, I think what we want.
I'll just take an attempt. So.
Sure.
Okay, Ajay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just give the the Indian context, because COVID has certainly, and it has stayed beyond our imaginations and expectations.
Right.
So and all of the sectors, industries, they have got impacted. But health is one sector where we are seeing a lot of investment spending happening, and particularly there are fundings, new funding being released to deal with the COVID. So what is happening that all the smart cities, the 100 smart cities which are in the process of getting implemented, some of them are already live. The ICCC, the integrated command and control centers, will now be having a COVID war room layer.
Right.
So basically, this is the place where the citizens would be able to know where are the doctors. They can get the consultancy from doctors virtually with the help of videos or WhatsApp call. They will be having detail as to where are the provisions, or during lockdown where can they get medicines or food items and all those things. And the Ministry of Finance has also allocated funds to the tune of 14,500 crores. So I think that's very significant, and government is really serious about as to how to deal with this scenario.
Yeah, thanks. Very nicely put. And that is a field which we haven't even talked about, because we focused on sort of security being the theme of this conference. Otherwise, the way the Arogya Setu app and the National Digital Health Mission and the things being pushed into the health sector are really technology is a real strong enabler there. So with your permission, Adish, I would like to quickly sum up and close the discussion, since there are no other questions, and I know you guys are out of time.
Completely out of time.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for a fantastic session. Really nice things that came out of it. And if I were to summarize, I've been taking my notes. So if I were to summarize 5 quick points, that technology will be a huge enabler for security systems, and a lot of this is going to be data and predictive analysis. Manufacturers need to listen to the end users and make what they want, and these will be based on the new risks which are coming up. The pandemic is teaching us new tricks, and we must be really aware of what's happening and be a part of the whole transformation. Multiple interconnected devices can function as the Internet of Things or the Internet of Everything. And like was rightly pointed out by the panelists, these cannot be easily analyzed manually. So we need good artificial intelligence and good predictive analytics to make sense out of all of this. And last but not the least, artificial intelligence is here to stay. Let's try and actively exploit these systems and this complete technology to the best of our ability to enable us to have a safe and secure workplace, whatever that may be. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Adish. Thank you, Informa Markets and the organizers for enabling us to put our views across in this time. Great session. Thanks a lot. I hope the audience benefited from it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Great day. Stay safe.
Allow me to have the last word.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, allow me to have the last word, please. So thank you, Sushil.
Yes, Adish.
so very well. I know, time was a little short to accommodate. It's a huge topic that we touched upon. We touched upon AI, we touched upon storage devices.
Yeah.
We touched upon video management software. We touched upon video surveillance. We touched upon artificial intelligence, machine learning, everything and what, and just one. So couldn't do justice to that, I know. But I'm sure, with the stalwarts present here in this session, the audience would have taken a few key takeaways to kickstart their journey on revisiting their security strategies and what technology has to offer. So I'm sure this session would have been a starting point for them. So thank you all very much. I would like to express my gratitude to, first of all, Sushil sir, to Raghavendra, to Ajay Gupta, Akshay Markandey, Anand, Thirunagari, Khalid, Wani, AL Narasimhan, and we are, unfortunate not to have Steve Katanas from HID Global in our midst, but I'm sure, he would have wanted to be part of this session. And we had some really great discussion. And thank you all very much for joining once again. Thank you all.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All the best. All the best.